neurophenomenology, how can we integrate the practice of the subjective experience in neuroscientific scientific data to develop conscious leadership and for them to be more effective, Aviva, from your point of view?
Okay, so I studied biology and neurobiology. And since my research is from the beginning tapping into deep states of meditation, but then it's extended to altered states of meditation, including psychedelics, lucid dreaming, channeling, near-death experiences. Now, these subtle states of consciousness conditions, it's very difficult to study them in the lab. It's very difficult to, first of all, you have to find these people who have this experience, and then try to find an objective measure like EEG or magnetoencephalography or fMRI to look at the brain. But then we have to know if these people had a similar experience, because there are so many different ways to meet the divine, to have a mystical experience, to have an altered state, to go beyond the boundaries of the self. And so we must introduce some subtle way of questioning from a first-person perspective what exactly was the experience and the nuances of the experience, so that when we can go back and forth between experience as a lived experience shared and the objective, subjective, objective, weaving them together. This is the neurophenomenology that was actually introduced by Francisco Varela, a Chilean researcher. He died in 1991, but this really captured into the field of consciousness research. So I'm part of this movement.
How beautiful. And what is your point of view about the contemplative deep states of mindfulness when the I is expanded, when there's no more consciousness of the me, of the I?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a huge question, and I feel like I've been studying this for 2 decades. But if I can say something about what we know about the brain. You mentioned the me and the I. The me is the narrative, the story I have about myself, while the I is the embodied, the more minimal self that is beyond language. It's always in the here and now. And so a lot of research in the last 2 decades showed that cortical networks, they have relationship with these two types of sense of self. The default mode network supports the narrative, while other networks like the sensory motor attentional networks support the embodied minimal sense of being in the moment, in the present moment. And so what we've seen with definitely with meditation, but also with psychedelics and other altered states, is that in deep states where one feels expanded consciousness, this is usually related to some type of reduction of activity of the default network or connectivity within it, some kind of breakdown of the default network, or it starts talking to networks that it usually doesn't work with. Instead of having this antagonistic relationship between these two networks, these two types of I, they start correlating. Like there's a breakdown of the subject-object kind of dichotomy into a non-dual state of awareness. So very, very briefly, this is basically what we see in the brain when this experience of expanded consciousness is happening.
With Greenberg, who was a biologist as well as you and me, he went to visit Pachita, and there were many states that he describes, and one of them goes beyond the 40 hertz. For me, or in the world, that's considered like stress. Do you think there's a higher level of stress where the frequency is higher, and therefore we find the lines of deeper meditation?
I didn't get it. What happened with Pachita? What did they see in the brain? 40 hertz?
Yeah.
So in the
40
gamma band?
At the gamma band, he describes that they are able to look at paths of light that show them the way of being without the self, but an expanded level of consciousness.
Wow, I don't know that research. That sounds amazing. I didn't know that he was looking at the EEG with Pachita. Wow, I would love to see that.
I send you the information about it. But for me, I think as a radiologist and nuclear medicine technician, that the deeper the meditation, the better it gets. The softest the brain waves, the brain is more effective, especially in terms of leadership. When we're talking about of conscious leadership, and people are able to be conscious about themselves, their well-being, and the others. What is your point of view?
When you say softer wavelengths, do you mean reduced towards the theta, the alpha, so that are related with relaxation?
Yeah, that's right.
So there is research. I'm not in the research of leadership. I don't know that. I can only say that most meditations enhance the lower frequency. So theta and alpha are frequencies that are related to meditation, hypnosis, relaxation, almost falling asleep, vivid imagery, creativity. While beta frequency is, for the most part, connected to daily mentation, kind of a noisier brain. So I'm not sure if this is what you're getting at, but to have a contemplative practice for people who are leading and have a lot of stress, to bring them back to it's like a resource. It brings them back to some quiet baseline from where we can get in touch, I think.
Yeah, like the narrative self, right? And with the minimal self. And the next question, uh, do you have any experience of meditation at schools? Because as I've told you, I create this learning system based on meditation as well for languages, where we reduce the time from 120 hours that usually takes for a person to learn a stage, and we reduce it to 40 hours because we are working at higher levels of the brain awareness where there's less noise, as you mentioned. Do you have any studies or knowledge about education with mindfulness, Aviva?
Specifically in my lab, there have been 3 students doing their own PhD on mindfulness in schools, or specifically mindfulness to math anxiety, and also mindfulness training for teachers, both Jews and Muslim Arabs. So a couple of projects in my lab, but also there's a huge body of knowledge about that, showing the efficacy of mental training in schools for young people, for adolescents, for the teachers, with a lot of beautiful programs that were developed around the world. And I don't even think that a specific program is needed, just a leader in a school that is willing to bring it in for the teacher, for the students. It's for everybody's benefit. And
Absolutely.
one thing more I want to say is that sometimes there is criticism that relaxing the students might make them more susceptible to the system of grading, or make them more susceptible to accepting the system that just wants the grading. But it's totally missing the point that taking space for introspection as part of the curriculum is the most important thing that can be. It brings the subject to be part of the curriculum, the inner life.
That is awesome, is wonderful. And also, what are your reflections or practice regarding health and meditation? I remember I was teaching a group of doctors, and when I told them about the self-healing possibilities by going into mindfulness, and I've seen it with patients with cancer, or people who couldn't walk, or people that had paralysis, for instance, the amazing recovery they have. What is your experience, Aviva?
If I have experienced that meditation can heal,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I think that meditation brings us back home, brings us back to heart. And disease comes from being far away from ourselves. So
That's
it's
a
just
beautiful description. That's
brings us
lovely.
back home.
Yeah, so inhabit our bodies, be able to self-heal ourselves, understand where the pain comes from. Pain is a high level of stress, and healing is being in love with your body. And but after meeting you in Mexico, in Valle de Bravo, I met some people that was receiving some uh, fighters, war fighters back in Mexico for recovering after a high level of stress during the war. How do you think mindfulness helps them heal? And what about the use of psychedelics for this purpose?
I know that psychedelics are related to treating trauma, especially MDMA, psilocybin are being used in different parts of the world. So people that suffer from trauma, and if it with time it develops into post-trauma, entering into an altered state in the right set and setting with the support, basically brings them in touch with the pain without the armor without the shield, and helps them process the pain in the right setting. It must be in the right setting. And the combination of meditation and psychedelics is becoming more and more, it's gaining more and more traction in science, but I also think in treatment. Because while psychedelics can bring you back to a deep moment of no boundaries, meditation helps holding it and processing it in a more continued way. So the combination of both in cases of trauma can be amazing.
Yeah, in my experience, I've seen so many things, people recovering from losses, or we don't have any wars, thank God, but from accidents and difficult situations they are facing. And now I'm studying all together with you this use of psilocybin, which might be a wonderful resource because it lifts the level of the ego. It goes beyond the self, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
ego dissolution. This is the name that the scientists, they call it ego dissolution situation.
if it-
Definitely the default network has a breakdown in this deep states with psychedelics.
this is wonderful, Aviva. It's always a pleasure to be in touch with you. And we will see you soon in May at El Santuario, right? Giving this presentation about psilocybin and meditation. Thank you so much, Aviva.
Thank you very much. Good to see
Thank you.
you.
Nice seeing you too. Thank you. Bye.